Hey guys, I am going to break down how I kind of change up adventures a little bit, in particular, very basic adventures like the ones I'm working with right now from the gaming system of basic fantasy role-playing game, or what I kind of do or my mindset when I take adventures such as this one and change it up. So it keeps the players on their toes. I kind of put my personal flair on it and why and how I do that. Those who are watching this are falling under a couple categories. Either you are in my group and you're trying to become a DM, or you are someone who I've met through either the gaming shops I go to or school, work, whatnot, and trying to get into the hobby. So you had asked me to do a few videos on teaching you guys how to do it. If you are one of the people that are just searching YouTube and find this video, it's not really catering. My videos aren't really catering to necessarily the whole gaming community on YouTube. It's more so of me trying to help my friends out or coworkers into getting into the game. So if you guys can get anything out of it, I'm happy for you guys. I'm not trying to really compete or try to be on anything with like the RPG brigades or anything, and their videos are amazing and I watch them all and follow them all, but this is kind of a broad way to just do a lump sum, answer questions and get information to my players and my friends, because where me and my wife live is now about an hour, 2 hours from some of our players. So it's a way to do our personal dialogue and make it where like our players or our friends can kind of get a good information before our monthly games that we do. So that's why these videos are here. So if you can get anything out of it, then great. Working with basic adventures. So this one particular adventure came from the Adventure Anthology 1 for the Basic Fantasy RPG. I'm going to apply this to 5th edition D&D, but I'm going to run through it. I'm not going to give specific details on what I've added into here or what I specifically changed in here. Just more like getting you kind of seeds to think about, like, oh, that's cool. So if I was doing this campaign, I would change this, or I could do this. Just kind of just food for thoughts versus me saying, hey, this is the trap I'm putting here, and I'm not having treasure in this room here. I'm going to instead put it over here and whatnot. So it kind of just gives you food for thought, because again, this channel is set up for my players and potential players in my group. So I don't want to give away what you will be going through with this. So the venture that I am going to go through is called The Gold in the Hills. It is a 2-page front and back with a map of the dungeon or situation and even the area on here. It's very basic information given. There's a little backstory on this area and kind of what's going on with the storyline, so to speak, if you could call it that. And it kind of has a way to get in the players to get involved, and then it breaks down what the mind is actually of. So to start out, the premise of the story is basically a ancient dwarven kingdom once spanned pretty much the whole region was taken over by some humanoids, and basically the kingdom kind of started collapsing. Now it's a small kingdom, but like that, normal average role-playing game fantasy genre, the dwarves made money through mining. And in particular, there's this one mine that has been taken over, we're going to say, by monsters or whatnot. Because I might change up what this one has. In the storyline, it says goblins, but I don't know if I'm going to stick with that necessarily, because kind of the reasons they suggest the players get into, it doesn't necessarily make sense to why certain things that they put in here is happening. That being said, what I'm talking about is so in this mine, these goblins kind of got together, and it's kind of their lair. Well, something happened. It doesn't say what causes it, but there's like an earthquake, and a section of this mine that was closed off is now open. And basically they find some gold, and they use this gold to go and get brand new weapons for everybody. The whole goblin tribe gets weapons. Now, this is kind of why I want to change it, because why is humans trading, besides for obviously you get gold, with goblins? That just doesn't make sense. It doesn't even say why they're doing it. There's no backstory of why. I assume it's, because they're prepping for a conflict. Are they conflicting with other goblins so that it's, a war that's about to break open? Or is these goblins finally revolting against the, orc clan that has been really controlling them? Or is they going to go and try to take over this land and fight the dwarves? So it's humans trying to side with goblins to maybe take over other parts. Like, there's nothing in here that states that. So that's why I said I don't know if I'm going to keep it to be necessary goblins. I might change it up to be other stuff, whether it's, a mercenary group or another group of adventurers took over this lair, made it theirs. I don't know yet kind of what I want to do with that, but it keeps the story very vague, so you can kind of change it. Like, you don't have to stick with the cliche of goblins. You can totally mess with it. And I'm thinking about what this conflict is, because it's not normal for goblins to go out and make sure that every goblin has a new weapon, like a brand new beautiful weapon. Like, that's just not what they think. Like, typically in these fantasy genres, all they care about is, here's a weapon, it could kill, it doesn't matter how sharp it is, just kill. That's kind of the mindset of it. It's, raid, plunder, kill, take, go back to leader, here you go. Like, that's typically how the goblins kind of are ran. So who knows, maybe this is another super intelligent group of goblins that are, splitting off from their group, and that's why they need the weapons to kind of take over. So that's kind of something else to think about. Now, why are the characters, or how are the characters getting involved? So here's what they suggest. Either the players fight the goblins and they come across the goblins' corpses with the gold on them, or the gold dust, or gold nuggets. That's one way, and they follow it back to the caves. Or here's another interesting kind of like twist, and this kind of has me also thinking of, well, if I switch it from goblins to mercenaries or something like that, it makes sense. But they suggest that the players are the guards to the traders who are selling the weapons to the player, or the goblins. So again, normally humans and goblins don't typically trade or mix, business. It's not something they get. I mean, typically goblins get their weapons by raiding and plundering. So, like, why would humans be trading with goblins unless this is, again, a super intelligent group of goblins, or if the humans are siding with the goblins to go take over another, kingdom. But even at that, why would a group of, because typically in these games, the players are, if they're not good, they're kind of neutral, but still they won't side necessarily with goblins or interact with goblins. So you can either be playing as a guard that didn't know you were going to sell these or help this guy sell these weapons to goblins, or maybe goblins, these guys aren't really the bad guys. There's another plot. I've had games where players thought they were going in and killing the bad guys and raiding it, and it turns out the bad guys were really the ones that sent them into the dungeon to clear out the good guys, but it made them seem like, oh, they're the bad guys. Maybe it's a situation of that, where in this universe, because you can create it yourself, that not all goblins are bad, or not all orcs are bad. I mean, we do have a complete character race in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. They're called half-orcs. And most players are like, oh, my mom was raped by my orc father. You don't have to go that such a dark route. Maybe orcs aren't all bad. Maybe goblins aren't all bad. It's just something to think about and change up from your thing. The other thing that they suggest is that you are new to town, the typical starting out cliche, and someone asks you to go search for this group of adventurers that went into the mines. That route is kind of odd enough because while it gives you that seed of, hey, go search for these other adventurers, nowhere else in here even mentions, hey, if you go that route, here's the storyline. It's not in here. And then it opens up to, once it does the background and why the player's involved, it opens up to starting to describe the mine and the narrative and the combat and stuff like that. Which I'm not going to necessarily go into each room. I mean, sure, you guys can go online and download this or whatnot, read it. But there's really nothing super fancy about this campaign. I mean, it's very basic, but it's got a couple traps in there. One particular, there's a 35-foot long, 10-foot deep trap that's a pit trap. Typically in Dungeons and Dragons, it's like a, maybe, 10 by 10, one player goes down type trap. This is a very interesting pit trap. I'm definitely going to keep kind of the premise of it, not necessarily the location of it, but I'm going to mess around with it because it has kind of like, on one side it has the mechanism that can disarm it, and the other side has like where you can walk around it like standard pit trap fall stuff. But for how big it is, I think there's more that we can do with it than it talks about in there. It keeps it very vague, but some things to think about is, it's a group of goblins that live here. How many goblins have fallen to their fate in here? Is it one that once it pops down, it stays revealed, or is it one that sets itself? If it resets itself, is there a stench in the area because others have fallen in there? Just different stuff like that. Is it just a standard fall collapse? You're stuck down there, or is there more down there? Just, you know, few things to change around. I don't like to just do a basic fall down type thing. I like to add the stress level, whether it's also once it falls down, it's kind of compacts in there, or you fall down and as soon as you hit the bottom, you hitting the bottom of it triggers another trap of spikes shooting up, or stuff like that. Just something else to make it more exciting. And like I said, I'm probably going to change the location. I might change the size, just a few things, but it makes sense to have this kind of trap, whether it was originally set up by the dwarfs, how the storyline has it, or did the goblins come up with this trap? Again, do the goblins know that this trap is there? The other thing that I think is very much a hindrance for the role-playing or potentially role-playing or whatnot is the amount of valuables or monetary stuff that could become out of here. One particular, there is an item in here, and in here it says that it's worth, or potentially could be worth, several thousands of gold pieces. This game, this adventure, is supposed to be set up for, I don't know if you can see it, 2 to 4 players of level 1 to 3. If you're starting off with a campaign of level 1, you don't want to give your players thousands upon thousands of gold. I mean, maybe in the basic fantasy role-playing game system, that's not too bad, but for 5th edition, nope. My players will not be getting thousands upon thousands of pieces of gold. It's just, it's like, what's the point of adventuring when, okay, your first adventure here, you're set for, you know, 7 or 8 levels worth of gold. Like, no, like the whole point is to earn those small gold pieces or earn this and that, and fighting your way through it to get what you want out of the game. I mean, if it was that easy, why play it at all? I'm a firm believer that I think games should be challenging. No, the players are not players versus DMs, but you still want that challenge. That's what makes the game fun. And to be handed off thousands of gold pieces, I don't like that. I would make it worth, you know, maybe depending if they're at that, you know, 3rd level, couple hundreds, or make it where it's super hard to have access to that necessary item, because it's just a ridiculous amount that they suggest in here. So I definitely, for new DM, don't give them that. I mean, we're already in a cave that they already have potential access to going and digging into a wall or a rumble pile of rubble and getting gold out that way. I mean, and then to, in particular, have something where it's like that much gold. No, like, it's okay to say no sometimes. So that's my big nope with this thing. I'm totally taking that gold amount and just like, nope. So no, my players who are watching this, you're not getting thousands upon thousands of gold pieces. Don't know if you heard that. My wife is eating across the table and she said, damn it, because I won't hand out that. Not even to her. The other thing that I found very interesting and I liked in here is there was a section in here that leads to something that's not even on this map. They didn't even put it out there. But it's a way, and it tells you in here, hey, if you want this, or the players go to here, you have to create it yourself because we're not going to provide any of that. And I liked how that gave a seed to, okay, we gave you the basic start. Okay, so now it is your time to create a whole new section. So I kind of like that aspect of it. And I'm definitely going to create something which is past that. We'll call it barrier in this adventure. But I like that. Now, in here, it's very basic, like I said. And so I think I will be adding some more traps in here, if you will, because I like traps. I like when I design my dungeon, I like to first find out what the players like about the game and what keeps them coming. And it typically falls under a couple categories. It's either combat in that, you know, let me kill, hack and slash, strategic type thing, or it is the social atmosphere interaction, or it could be simply, hey, I'm in this world that I can interact and do stuff that I couldn't necessarily do in the real world. So I like the fact that I can interact and do just about anything. So when I do that, I like to make it where in the ventures, even if it's not necessarily in here, that's pre-written, I like to make it where at least each player has something that they want out of the game in the adventure. So instead of maybe combat, for those who like to really get into role-playing and the social interactions, maybe instead of fighting the goblins, they can talk to them and use diplomacy and get that player to shine to find out either more about what the characters are doing, or not characters, but the goblins are doing, to want the weapons, or like maybe it's something that they can help, the players can help them with, or they find out, and after they did the diplomacy stuff, that nope, we really need to kill them. Like, it just still gives them that opportunity to shine, as well as make it where there's the traps for those who like to, you know, be able to disarm or watch out where you go and search around. And then I add like little, I guess you can say it's like a, I've heard once it being described as like a fun house type thing where everything's interactive. So I might put like a hidden magical capability in this place. Like if you know, drink this, you know, for X amount of time, you might get 2 bonus hit points or something like that. It doesn't have to be super crazy, but just something like, hey, you know. Or once I made it where these bad guys were like super vulnerable to this one type of metal and happened to have a butter knife made out of that particular metal in this dungeon that this bad guy was in. So guess what? Someone found this knife. And, you know, I just do like weird tinker stuff just to kind of get that player who needs that investigation part, like it's worth their time, as well as the other players' time. And so I try to make it where they have a little bit of something. So I will probably add more traps in here, more rooms to kind of explore, maybe. Might take out a combat situation that's in here and turn it more into a diplomacy situation, and just mess around with it. Like, add more descriptions to what they see, hear, smell, taste, and you know, change the order of stuff. Maybe, you know, this little hallway really leads to here or whatnot. Like, I will actually change up the order of the rooms sometimes too. So you never know, and just mess with it and see how you like it, run it, see how your players like it. But don't be hesitant to kind of mess with this stuff. And if you're reading these and you're like, hey, I think this should be this, or hey, I think instead of, goblins, I think it should be a group of rebellious gnomes that are taking over these mines. Whatever you want, mess with it and change it up. So that's my advice. Just kind of read through it and just think what makes logical sense to you. That doesn't make sense from here, just switch what makes sense to you. And don't be afraid to mess around with it or change up the rooms and whatnot. Anywho, that's about it. I will catch you guys later. This video is long enough.